Theo, and today I thought I would discuss unique storytelling and works of fiction that I think approaches stories in a particularly fun way. Now, the first real storytelling I got into as a young girl that wasn't children's literature was poetry. My grandmother had these volumes of poetry by an Icelandic poet named David Stefánsson, and for some reason I really loved rhythm in language even then, and his poems spoke to me because there were almost always very intriguing stories in them. There were women who were mothers and vampires and ghosts and all kind of creatures of the night, and there were castles and ruins that were haunted, and he was a new romantic and a national poet that I really got into really early. What really spoke to me was the rhythm of the language, and that, along with being able to tell a story that way, that's really focused and small, and you can consume the entire story in a sitting, and in a very short sitting, a very short time. Oops. Now, sadly, it's very hard to translate poetry, and as far as I know, not a lot has been translated by this author. Just to indicate the difficulty in containing rhythm, I found online someone has tried to translate one of the more popular poems, and it's I don't know who has tried to do this. I can't see on the page, but I'll read the first verse in Icelandic and then I'll read it in English, and you'll see the indication. Abba labba lá. Hún hét Abba labba lá. Hún var svört á brún og brá og átti kofa í skóginum á milli grænna greina og trúði á stokk og steina. Now you automatically get on with the story, and the story is about this wild woman who the storyteller falls in love with, but she's wild and she's dangerous, and her name was Abba labba lá. She was dark of cheek and brow. At her cabin in the wood, neath the green grown branches stood, with faith in stocks and stones endued, was Abba labba lá. Now, this isn't as rhythmic. It's the problem with translating poetry is that the rhythm of one language is very, very different from the rhythm of another language, and that way the story, you can tell the story and you can try to convey it in the same format, but it's really hard to do it justice. And people and translators who can't do that, that's magic. That's pure magic. Now, one of the reasons I got into this now was because a friend of mine, Robert Sherman, has written and published these books called We All Hear Stories in the Dark, and these are 3 thick volumes of short stories that are just amazingly woven together. And each time you pick up these books to read, it's a choose your own adventure thing. You pick up a book, you read a story, and you get choices, and the choices lead you to different parts of the book, or the books rather, and so each time you pick up the book, it's unique. You get led into unique paths and unique stories, which means this is always going to be new, a new story each time you read it. No one's going to read this the same way. which is just it's pretty mind-blowing, and I can recommend. It's beautifully written and wonderfully illustrated, and it's very intriguing being able to have all these connections between stories. And I was rocking my brain if there were more things like this. And there are people do amazing things with creativity and stories. And another, I wouldn't say similar, but it's a short story. It's an experiment in collaboration, I guess, where editor Stephen Jones has done a zombie apocalypse story along with a lot of writers. And this isn't the average short story collection, because this is a whole story. This is a novel. This is one story, but each writer has had a segment of it, and they've written this segment, and it's fantastically illustrated in the text. The different styles and different aspects of the story are indicated with written snippets and letters and news articles. And usually when writers collaborate on something, they write one story, and you can't quite tell where one author starts and the other one stops. They kind of collaborate on the entire story, and it becomes a one big whole. But this is kind of, actually, you know exactly, if you have a favorite author that's done this, you can find him in the book and or her, and read that. And I love these. These are more than one volume, and they're very interesting and different take on how to do this. A few years back, I got this book as a gift. It's written by the director J.J. Abrams and a writer called Doug Dorst, and it's called S dot nothing else, except inside you have a book called Ship of Theseus, which is supposed to be written by a man called V.M. Straka. And this is an amazing piece of book. It's the text itself, the book itself, which is the story called Ship of Theseus, is in a text format like a normal novel would be, but it's supposed to have been researched by at least two characters that have gathered all these clips of and sent postcards that are inside the book, and you have all kinds of things here, snippets and letters and news articles and things like that. And they've written part of their story. The people who have researched the book have are supposed to have handwritten things, written things about the book in the margins. So it's full of handwriting, which you're supposed to read. It makes the book kind of hard to read. I've tried to do it in two different ways. The first obvious one is you read its page and then you read the margins. That's hard. It's hard to keep focus on the story and what their story. This is a very doubled piece of literature. And the other one is to read the story and then read the margins. It's complex any way you do it, but it's a very interesting thing, and I just love leafing through it because it has this old library feel to it. It's stamped book for loan, and in the back here you have these old-fashioned stamps you got when you borrowed books in the library. It's intriguing, and it's kind of this detective. You get this feeling of detective, being a detective, trying to figure out what they were trying to figure out, which is, it makes the story very complicated, and it's not an easy work to get through, but it's very thrilling, very exciting to do, and I absolutely love this. I love this book. It's one of these books you have to have it in your hands, because Kindle would not be able to do this in any format. No, it's not just books that tell unique stories. There are a lot of mediums that do stories very well, and one of these is one of the things that are doing new things with storytelling and stories is video games. And there are a lot of games that you could mention that try to relay stories in a new and exciting way, and this is a medium that's constantly improving itself and trying to find new things to do. And a year ago approximately, it's been a bit longer. This franchise, Bloodborne or Dark Souls, the Soul franchise, they have a unique way of relaying a story. And this is something I've been wanting to get into more because it fascinates me. The art style in the game, this is it's I don't know if you can see it very well, but it's very cool, and this is a beautiful book to be inspired by the artwork from it. What this franchise does in story is that instead of pushing the story upon you, it kind of has the player look for it. You won't get it pushed down your throat. You beat a boss, and often you get this big cutscene where everything in the story is kind of jammed at you. It's the obvious way to go, you know. It's the movie way to go. You have a story, you tell it, and in a game where you're going different paths, doing different things that change the story, this is what you're getting now, and you have this cutscene. But Bloodborne and Dark Souls, it doesn't do that in the same way. You often have to dig into it. You have to read item descriptions, and you have to actually go search for the story to get it all, which is very interesting thing in my opinion, because that means that those who just want to play the game, because these games are difficult, they're difficult to play, and for me who loves the story, I kind of get rewarded with the story. I get to dig deeper. For those who just want the difficulty, just want the gameplay, they can ignore the story, which is in video games, I think, kind of cool. And that also means that digging into the story isn't easy, and it means that you have to play it a lot to get it all, and you have to kind of build your own version of what happens, and what's this person's story, this character that you get to fight, what's their story, or this monster, what's their story. It's nothing you have to be interested in, but if you are, they have these amazing in-depth things that can have you burrowing deep down, which is pretty cool, I think. And it's a great way to relay the story, I think, because this is a medium that is giving you many things, and you don't have to be interested in all it's trying to give you. Another thing that's always fascinated me, and this isn't this is a storytelling in a different aspect, I guess. It's intros to mainly TV shows, but also big movie franchises like James Bond. The intros that don't actually relay the story, but they're there to give you a sense of atmosphere and basically tell you what the characters are about. You know, the James Bond, they always have these fantastic themes, and the theme song is the same but with variation, and you get a hint of the story told in this movie in the intro without getting spoilers. And there are some fantastic TV themes, intros, like Game of Thrones did it quite well with their map, and you combine that with music and hint of characters. Sometimes, like in Supernatural, you actually have an intro where they're telling the basis of the stories they're telling. You don't get the individual story, of course, in the intros, but in the Supernatural intro, they tell you how it started and why we're here. And I've always been interested in this, how they relay the theme and the atmosphere of the show through the intro, with music, with text, with images, with different kind of doesn't have to be very realistic, of course. You often have surreal or what's the word? Abstract is the word I'm looking for. These abstract images that kind of help to relay what the show is about. And I've always been very interested in this collaboration between mediums, like they do in these books. Well, video games do it obviously, but in a book like this, where you have visual help, mostly in form of text, but also with the penmanship, the different penmanship, the different pens they use, the different postcards, all that, this combination of different mediums to tell one story. And video games use this extremely well, usually, often. And a book like this where does this in the same way. It's and they do this in the intros of these shows as a kind of snippet of what you're going to be seeing, as well as kind of getting into your memory. You've seen the show before, you know what it's about, but you need this trigger and way to kind of set the rhythm, like they do in poetry, where the rhythm and the very short format is a big part of the story. Now, I can't do this without mentioning comic books. I'm not a comic books person, dear. Exactly. I don't read a lot of comics. I never have. It's they weren't so available when I was a child in Iceland. What was available was things like Asterix and Lucky Luke, and it never really appealed to me. I don't know why, but I've been reading some lately, and I got this one for my birthday. It's Dark Knight's Metal, Dark Knight's Rising, and it's Batman, but it's kind of dark Batman, and And I know for real comic book people this is old news, but it kind of blew my mind how they, because the comics are so reliant on frames and on the images, and there's text too, of course, but the setting up of each page is kind of what tells the story. And this is an excellent read, and the Dark Batman is so reliant on what we know about him otherwise. This hero, this troubled soul that's always on the verge of something, and who has this polar in the Joker and other antagonists, and this story, how much it relies on the good stuff that Batman otherwise represents is very cool, and I'm not sure you could have done this in another format. You could have done this in a movie, perhaps, but I don't think it would have had as much impact. I think the impact of just a thing like this is very reliant on the iconic images and the frames that you see, and that aren't moving, just pretending to move. And I love that. It seems small, and like I said, for comic book people, this is kind of old news, but I found it very, very cool. I'd love to hear your take on unique stories and unique ways of telling stories. There's so much to sap into and to mention here, and I'm probably forgetting a lot of good stuff, even that I would have mentioned if I just thought of it. But please tell me in the description below what your favorite unique stories are, or story arcs, or storytelling in general, and hit me up on Twitter or anywhere, and let me know. I love these, and especially if they're not new to me, that's always unique fun. If you're interested in His Mind, Her Shadow, I have several books left. If you want a signed copy, just hit me up. Just contact me, description below, or message me on Twitter or Facebook, or any other way you might be able to contact me. It's been out for a while now. This concludes this today. I don't know how often I will be doing these. I'm going to try to do a bit more of them than I have been doing, not be as lazy with that. If you have topics you would like me to talk about, because I kind of randomly seep through these. If you have some topic you want me to discuss or take or have get my take on, let me know. That would be fun. Have an awesome week. See you later. Bye bye.